Traffic was at a standstill along the New England Highway this afternoon after the horror head-on collision. Crash investigators are yet to formally determine the accident's cause, but witnesses say the ute was heading north just after midday when it crossed the median strip onto the wrong side of the road and hit the southbound truck. The ute then went partially under the larger vehicle, trapping the 65-year-old father and 19-year-old daughter inside for almost an hour. Ambulance and fire brigade rescue workers cut through the wreckage to free the pair. They were then airlifted to John Hunter Hospital, suffering head, chest and leg injuries. The truck's 30-year-old driver and his two passengers escaped with relatively minor injuries. The accident came as police prepare to wrap up double demerit points and Operation Slow Down. Over the long weekend, police have conducted 6,200 random breath tests in the Hunter. That's 1,713 more than last year. 41 people were allegedly caught drink driving, up 10 on 2009's figures. Seatbelt offences are up 3, and 291 people have been detected speeding.
People just aren't getting it. I have reported that people are getting into their vehicles, putting the car in gear and their brain in neutral.
While the statewide operation ends at midnight, Hunter Police say they'll continue to crack down on traffic offenders until the end of the school holidays. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Now we're supposed to believe they're going to renovate it. They could have done that all along and the community would have had a police officer here.
Scientists believe they're moving closer to a marine breakthrough. These 14 healthy shark pups were bred outside their mum.
It's our third time we've done it, but we've just gone that little bit further back in their reproductive cycle.
The wobbegongs are a small part of a bigger experiment. They could hold the key to saving their cousin, the feared but endangered grey nurse.
Situation is not the greatest. Recent numbers have come out that are showing that there are between 1,000 and 2,000 of them.
It's the only species of its kind where the young eat each other inside the womb. So scientists are using test tube-like technology to separate sharks and a giant artificial uterus.
We need to find out how to feed them their brothers and sisters without feeding them their brothers and sisters, if that makes sense. So we've got to try and basically stimulate their entire gestation.
The experts are looking at more testing with expectant wobbegong mothers lining up. And who knows, with human help, this beast of the sea might one day consider man its best friend.
No, not crazy. They're an amazing animal. They're a very important animal to our ecosystem. They're an apex predator. And without them, people wouldn't have that fascination.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
There's no such thing as an off-season for representative players these days, but when you're playing for your country, it certainly doesn't bother Kurt Gidley.
Probably had a bit of a mixed season where I played some good footy, but I missed a bit as well. So it's always a nice reward at the end of the year to be named in the Aussie team. The
fullback finished his club season in the halves, but doesn't expect to spend time in that role for Australia. Making the 17-man team for each test is all he's worried about.
Those guys who play specialists, that specialist position in halves for their whole careers are probably entitled to a shot first, that's for sure. But mate, I'll be happy if I'm playing that utility spot again. That's worked for me before.
Having recovered from a small knee operation, he'll join the Aussie camp next week. When he returns to Knights training in the new year, some of his new teammates will have already settled in, and Neville Costigan could still be smiling after that win last night with the Dragons. While powerful centre Sui Tonga Likiliki will come from the Warriors under-20 side, which won the National Youth League title. The Knights would be only too happy to help them win titles back-to-back. With new owner Nathan Tinkler committing to the Jets until the year 2020 at least, he's tasked Executive Chairman Ken Edwards with ensuring head coach Branko Kalina stays around a bit longer as well. They met again today to further discuss Kalina's long-term tenure, but he'd prefer it not become a distraction from the job at hand.
I think the best thing for all of us at the moment is to focus on winning football games and let the new management team get in place and decide what they want to do with the club.
But it appears Kalina will have a big say in that too when it comes to player recruitment and retention, and the January transfer window will be an opportune time to start making moves on that front.
And we're exploring those. It's a matter of time now finding the suitable people and see whether it can be finalised in the not too distant future.
He could do with some fresh players right now, given he has a stack of injured footballers on the sideline, but thankfully only a handful are long-term problems with the Jets' next game against Brisbane on October 16. Nathan Green is a huge football fan, but he could have kicked himself on the 15th in the final round of the US PGA Tour's Viking Classic. After starting the day in a tie for second, Green finished in a share of 11th after a final round 75.
Came in, had pretty much only 10 minutes practice on the track, on the new track. So it was the first lap or first race. I went a bit sketchy in that, but now I got it dialed and it should be sweet.
Islington residents are back on the warpath. In the past few days, they've sent letters to every state MP.
We've asked for the government to help us. The government seems to be intent on ignoring us.
It appears there's no easy solution to this suburb's problems.
Mental health of these girls is really a critical factor in these. There's a whole range of problems here.
It's been 18 months since residents rallied for help.
It has improved for a while, but now through lack of action, the problem's starting to be on the increase again.
There are ongoing operations, and I'm not prepared to speak about anything in relation to those, but we work well within the parameters of their legislation as it presently exists.
And it's those laws which are proving the problem. Residents claim they don't give police enough power to catch and keep prostitutes off the street.
Last year we did try to get the Summary Offences Act modified to make it more of a crime than it actually is at the moment.
And the group's former lawyer fears legal action might be the only solution.
The end result has been nothing has been done, and I don't see anything happening in the near future.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
Lunching city workers know a good spot to relax when they see one, but according to Newcastle Council staff, allowing people to sit in front of this cafe would be far too much disruption for residents of the adjacent apartment block. The cafe has now closed because the tenant says the ban on tables and chairs has made the business unviable. The Lord Mayor says the situation is ridiculous.
Some tables and chairs there, maybe half a dozen or so, would be very unobtrusive but would add so much to the amenity. This is a council property, a commercial property, and council expects someone to run a business with that sort of curtailment. It obviously won't work.
There's been a campaign by some residents to have the building demolished and returned to parkland. But the Lord Mayor says while ever the building is occupied, it's generating income for council. The tenant of the Lynch's site also owns this cafe in the East End. He says council officers told him if he lodged an application for tables and chairs on the foreshore, it would be rejected. He wouldn't speak to us on camera today for fear of riling up those officers, with whom he's already hit a brick wall.
There's a tenant there willing to have a go to try and turn this into something that would be a benefit to the city, and I don't think council's given them sufficient support.
Paul Lobb, NBN News.
Heart attacks can strike with little warning and have devastating effects. In New South Wales alone, 4,000 people die from them each year, and many of those attacks are triggered by smoking-related complications.
Still, the most common cause of death in people of middle age is heart attack. It's 10 times more common than motor vehicle accidents.
The latest research from the Heart Foundation shows 1 in 10 people aged 30 to 65 in the state have been warned they're at risk of having a heart attack.
About 20 to 30% of those people still smoke, even though their doctor has told them that it's not a good idea to smoke and that they're at risk of having a heart attack.
The good news for smokers is the risk of suffering a heart attack goes down almost immediately after you quit smoking, and after 2 to 6 years, the risk decreases to that of a person who has never smoked. One person urging smokers to heed the warning is Newcastle Police Officer Tony Tamplin, who suffered an attack almost 12 months ago.
It was very sharp, very severe pain right in the centre of my chest.
But he says it was just the wake-up call he needed and is urging others not to ignore the warning signs.
You have to consider yourself very lucky. You really need, unless you're silly, you really need to do something about it so that you do stay here as long as you can.
The symptoms of a heart attack include severe upper body pain, especially in the chest, along with dizziness, shortness of breath and nausea. If you suffer any of these, you're advised to ring 000 immediately. Tomorrow night, the importance of having your heart checked. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
Happily engrossed in a card game, Martin and Innocencia a book are now on the road to recovery. The girls arrived in Australia from West Timor last month to have rare kinds of facial tumours surgically removed. These x-rays show just how big the potentially life-threatening growths were.
The surgery was a long operation. It was some 10 hours of operating. It was a removal of the tumour and a piece of bone from the jaw, and the implantation of a piece of bone from the leg to actually rebuild the jaw.
While the teenagers are still swollen and a little sore, doctors are pleased with their progress.
They're going really well. They had their trackies out mid last week and they started a puree diet, which isn't the nicest thing to start with, but they did really well.
And the girls have a new outlook on life.
It's kind of miracle, she said. Things have changed. Like once you wake up, it's just gone.
17-year-old Innocencia says she already feels more beautiful. While 15-year-old Martin is feeling a little homesick and is ready to resume the life she once put on hold. The girls are expected to be fully recovered and ready to head home in 2 weeks. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
For 27 years, Jack Newton has hosted some of the best junior golfers from around Australia and these days around the globe at his own 4-day event. Among the field, which is split between East Maitland and Curry, are junior teams from Thailand, South Africa and Canada, along with individuals from America, China and the Pacific Island nations. Anthony Madaka is flying Australia's colours after winning the national junior title only months ago, aged 14.
It feels really good, actually. It's something I didn't really expect to win.
Should he win here, Anthony would represent Australia at the Junior World Final in China, but the now 15-year-old is already heavily booked.
It'll be really good to win this one as well, but I'm not too sure if I'll be able to play it because of the Australian Open at the same time.
Having moved from Korea 5 years ago to develop her game, Annie Choi hasn't looked back. Now Australia's top-ranked female junior, she knows that adds some heat.
Yeah, a bit nervous, yeah, and a bit pressure.
You'd imagine there are big things ahead for Ryan Parry. Son of Australian legend Craig, his opening round included a hole-in-one. Zach Stoltz is following in the footsteps of his touring professional father Andre as well. There's also a stack of Hunter golfers in the mix this week. While Jared Freeman already holds a unique title. At 17, he's the world left-handed golf champion.
Another day, and project opponents say another damning piece of evidence.
The information that this technical officer is giving us really shows that the Tilligra Dam should not be going ahead.
The New South Wales Office of Water submitted this response to plans for the Tilligra Dam 4 months ago. It was signed by the head of the Major Projects Department, but has since been retracted. In it, he told the state government that the need for the dam, when compared to the environmental risks, raised a lot of uncertainty. He also disagreed with Hunter Water, saying the project would affect the flow of the Williams River. It's a view protesters have long shared.
If we don't get the fresh water, the nutrients, we don't get prawns, therefore we don't get fish.
And adding to the embarrassment for dam advocates, claims the solution to drought-proofing the Hunter may not even be ready when it's needed. After weeks of negative publicity, Hunter Water today chose not to comment. They referred it to the New South Wales Office of Water, who we're still waiting to hear from.
The Hunter community are the people who are paying for this. Therefore, their political masters must be accountable.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
Planning Minister Tony Kelly found it heavy going cutting a celebratory cake today before handing the hard work over to his new mines compliance team leader. 3 new officers have been hired to check that the mines are following the rules.
We plan to be a very field-focused project whereby we go and meet the mines, discuss with the mines what we believe our requirements are, going back inspecting the mines both with advised inspections and at minimal notice or no notice inspections to ensure that the mines are complying with their consent requirements.
There are at least 4 government departments now monitoring the mines: the Department of Health, the Department of Environment and Climate Change, as well as the Department of Industry Investment. Now the Department of Planning has launched its own unit.
This will be an opportunity for all those departments to actually work together to make sure there's no duplication.
While welcoming any extra checks and balances on the mines, Singleton's Healthy Environment Group is still calling for the state government to study the health effects of mine pollution on people rather than simply measuring dust. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
This was the Rostas family back in 2008, just before loving wife and mother, Sue, suffered a sudden and fatal heart attack.
We went overseas for a very enjoyable holiday, and 2 weeks after we got back she had a sudden and massive heart attack and died.
2 weeks after his tragic loss, Sue's husband John saw his doctor to have a stress test. The result saw him rushed to hospital.
The cardiologist is looking at the screen and he goes, multiple blockages in all major vessels.
Within hours, he had a life-saving quadruple heart bypass. 2 years on and he's living a healthy life. But he's among the lucky ones. That checkup almost certainly gave him a second chance. A recent Heart Foundation survey showed a large number of people in New South Wales aren't having vital heart tests. In the last 2 years, 33% of people hadn't had a diabetes test, 28% hadn't had their cholesterol checked, and 12% hadn't had their blood pressure tested. One person who's now having regular checks is heart attack survivor Mark Wynne.
Well, it was just like an anxiety in the front of my chest. And then just like I was just about to pass out.
He's heavily dependent on medication to keep him healthy. Both he and Mr. Rostis are now helping spread the message about having heart checks.
I just need to tell people, more people, make people aware, same as I was not aware.
I think you need to go out and have yourself checked even if you are unaware of these risk factors.
Tomorrow night, would you recognise a heart attack? Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
These sisters are just about packed and ready to go. They're about to fly to Rome for the canonisation of Australia's first saint. The sisters got the chance to go on what will be a trip of a lifetime after their names were drawn out of a hat among their order.
I was away on holidays when my name was drawn out. They were having a congregational day and all the names went in, and my name was the last one to be drawn out. So they were all on the telephone ringing me up and I was so excited. I was crying on the other end.
And the journey isn't all that they've won. Each travelling sister of St Joseph has been given special pilgrim attire.
So all the sisters of St Joseph have this special pashmina and we'll be all robed in that.
How fabulous. So you'll be there in high-end fashion.
High-end fashion, yes. I've never worn a pashmina before in my life.
Not to mention these pilgrim hats.
These are very American, I think, but at the same time, although I don't normally wear them, but I'm going to have to put it on, I think, somewhere in Rome so I can look very suave.
Mary MacKillop's ascension to sainthood will be especially memorable for Sister Ellen Royan, who has been selected to sing in a choir during the canonisation Mass.
Give us a little taste of how you'll sound.
I don't know about that because it's the Missa de Angelis we're going to be singing, and it's one of those Kyrie.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
He cruised around the Maitland course yesterday, but Sydney's Josh Caban found the going a little tougher this morning. 3 birdies and 4 bogeys saw him finish at 1 over. Still good enough for the outright lead on a course he'd never seen until this week.
I play at Concord, which is similar type of grass, so it sort of makes me feel a bit more at home.
Playing partner Nick Gulliver has been consistent on his home course, but still sits 8 shots behind. He's offered local knowledge to his rivals so far, but that's all about to change.
What's your strategy for the next 2 rounds?
Go out there and attack all the pins hopefully, and play like I did the last 2 days.
In the girls' division, Chantel Hodson held the overnight lead, but her luck ran dry by the back 9 today. She finished at 8 over. No such dramas for Sydney's Claudia Lim. Her second round included 6 birdies as she became one of only a handful of players to card an under par round.
Well, I've been in this position before and I didn't really do well last time, so I know what to do this time, so it'll all work out.
Gold Coast-based Annie Choi and Sydney's Kathleen Santoso will be two of her main rivals over the last 36 holes. The colour and excitement of the Junior Classic continues tomorrow.
The horror scenario unfolded just after 2 p.m. 3 pedestrians were waiting at traffic lights at the intersection of Main and Minmai roads at Edgeworth when the driver of this white van apparently lost control of the vehicle and ploughed into the group.
At this stage, we believe there is 2 deceased and 1 seriously injured. The driver's been conveyed to John Hunter Hospital for treatment for shock and also for a compulsory blood test.
Police aren't sure why or how the deadly crash occurred and believe the victims were aged in their 30s or 40s. Shocked witnesses say the vehicle had been travelling north along Main Road.
All we seen was the van spinning, and then it took us 5 seconds to just look down, and then we just shocked, and then we just clicked onto what happened. My sister yanked me and my brother around the corner, and then my sister rang 000 straight away.
And you were very close to where it happened?
Yeah, if I was 10-15 seconds ahead of where I was gone.
Local residents say the intersection's a real black spot.
It's not safe at all. That person was obviously just waiting to cross the street and they've been wiped out.
The cars don't wait till you stop walking. Very bad, yeah.
A crime scene has been established, with the Newcastle Crash Investigation Unit taking over the investigation. Madeline Bond, NBN News. It was a well-planned and calculated crime. Thieves broke into the Seahampton RFS station through a side window yesterday morning and spent at least 45 minutes going through the building.
Ransacked the trucks, ransacked the office, ransacked the kitchen and stole a lot of equipment from us.
The unit was offline for 6 hours yesterday while the crew cleaned up. Firefighters say the thieves escaped with well over $10,000 worth of equipment. They took the brigade's handheld radios, a laptop, GPS, weather equipment, uniforms, firefighting tools, even food from the fridge.
It makes us feel very disappointed. We're all volunteers, we're here for the community. Our capability has been really strained by this break and enter.
The thieves also targeted medical supplies, stealing 3 first aid kits, oxygen cylinders and masks, as well as a defibrillator. Firefighters say the callous act has ultimately put their lives at risk.
We need that equipment. We're often in remote areas where it could take an ambulance quite some time to get to us, so that equipment is for our own safety.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It's a Newcastle landmark, but since January, the 190-year-old convict-built bogey hole has been off limits due to safety concerns over falling rocks and ageing stairs. Now a $265,000 commitment from the state government should see the site swarm with swimmers once again.
There are things that we cannot control, which is that continual environmental erosion that is occurring there. But obviously what we can do is do some work on the stairs. We can put new railing in, we can look at the signage.
Member for Newcastle, Jodie McKay, admits keeping the bogey hole safe will be an ongoing issue, especially given its recent history. It was closed in 2003 because of rockfalls. Then in January this year, a young man died after hitting his head on rocks. A state government report followed, finding it was cheaper to close the landmark than repair it.
It also will always remain a site that is high risk, and I think the community needs to be aware of that. There will still be signs warning against swimming in the area, but certainly the work that we're doing will ensure that the public will be able to access it.
An exact date on when it will be ready for public use still hasn't been determined. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
%, we believe, of the toilets across the Hunter are single flush toilets. It's about 30,000 units all up.
As far as workplaces go, this one is rather enlightened when it comes to promoting good mental health. Staff at the Hunter Institute of Mental Health embraced Are You OK Day, taking time out for a cuppa and a chat.
I mean, our workplace is a lot like any other in the fact that people get very busy. People, find themselves sometimes working as teams and sometimes working on their own, and that all people have, things that stress them or affect them in their lives.
The Institute is part of Hunter New England Health. Its 14,000 strong workforce encouraged to participate in the day.
If you actually break down our adult lives, we spend most of our waking hours with our work colleagues rather than our friends and our families, although we'd like it to be the other way. If you're a decent person, you want to make sure the people in your workplace are doing okay, and if they're not, what can be done to help support them through a difficult time.
The first step is to ask the question, are you okay? Experts recommend using icebreakers or open-ended questions to get a conversation going. You should practice your listening skills, be encouraging and helpful.
It shouldn't be a scary thing to ask someone, how are you going? What's up? Can I do anything to help you out?
It's hoped by focusing on those around us, the day will foster well-being in the workplace and beyond.
Are You OK Day is an important reminder of that, but it's one day. Hopefully we can get to the point where we're practicing that all year round.
It's a question you may not have thought too much about. Would you know if you were having a heart attack? According to a Heart Foundation survey, 40% of Hunter residents alone wouldn't.
We think that's scary because people are dying unnecessarily because of their inability to recognise the heart attack in the first place.
From Sunday, a series of television, radio and print advertisements will attempt to get the message across in the Hunter. The region has the second highest rate of heart disease in New South Wales. Also of concern, a survey which showed in the event of a heart attack in people aged 30 to 65, 39% would wait and see what happens before calling 000, 68% were unaware of heart attack symptoms, 49% wouldn't know what to do, and 24% would make sure they're actually having a heart attack before calling an ambulance.
I think some people are embarrassed about having the heart attack, don't want to bother the ambulance service, don't want to bother the hospital.
Heart attacks are exactly the reason we want people to bother 000.
We're actually able to instigate a lot more treatment now and a lot quicker, and people are getting out of hospital sooner.
Paramedics in the Hunter now have the ability to send ECGs straight to Newcastle's John Hunter Hospital's cardiology unit. That means treatment can begin straight away, increasing the chance of survival.
If you delay it too long, you may not survive, and 50% of people don't even make the hospital. But even if you do survive, your quality of life will be diminished because the heart muscle will start to die and it will never regrow.
Heart attack symptoms include pain and pressure in the upper body, arms and neck, as well as tightness, shortness of breath and dizziness.
It's no good telling your doctor about it a few days later. We want people to call 000, get to hospital and get potentially life-saving treatments.
If not for yourself, do it for your family.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
He cruised around the Maitland course yesterday, but Sydney's Josh Caban found the going a little tougher this morning. 3 birdies and 4 bogeys saw him finish at 1 over. Still good enough for the outright lead on a course he'd never seen until this week.
I play at Concord, which is similar type of grass, so it sort of makes me feel a bit more at home.
Playing partner Nick Gulliver has been consistent on his home course, but still sits 8 shots behind. He's offered local knowledge to his rivals so far, but that's all about to change.
What's your strategy for the next 2 rounds? Go out there and attack all the pins hopefully, and play like I did the last 2 days.
In the girls' division, Chantel Hodson held the overnight lead, but her luck ran dry by the back 9 today. She finished at 8 over. No such dramas for Sydney's Claudia Lim. Her second round included 6 birdies, as she became one of only a handful of players to card an under par round.
Well, I've been in this position before and I didn't really do well last time, so I know what to do this time, so it'll all work out.
Gold Coast-based Annie Choi and Sydney's Kathleen Santoso will be 2 of her main rivals over the last 36 holes. The colour and excitement of the Junior Classic continues tomorrow.
Daniel Aman has his sights set on win number 20.
It was disappointment my other opponent pulling out 2 weeks ago, but I still get to fight, still 10 rounds and against a tough opposition.
Oscar Telepa-Siali might be a stand-in, but the New Zealander isn't just here for a photo opportunity. He knows how to wear a punch and plans to keep Aman at bay for as long as possible.
He's just going to have to be busy in there and score a lot of points and try and just work around his long jab and his straight right hand.
Aman is back where he wants to be, in the cruiserweight division, but he's been struggling to find opponents willing to challenge for the Australian title.
The longer it goes on, it seems like they're not going to happen, so we're just going to have to try and step up and go for a regional title.
Jumping weight divisions has taken its toll in the past. A loss on points to Shane Cameron 3 months ago cost Aman any chance of a big pay fight with Danny Green.
I think everyone's putting their hand up for Danny lately. He's the biggest payday in Australia at the moment. So if I got the opportunity, I'd definitely take it, but I'm not going to go screaming out after him like a lot of people have been.
Nats Wallace, NBN News. Home sweet home. After spending the past 2 weeks up in the air, the Jets have finally landed.
Yeah, it's just a whole big new lease of life. We've had a new lease of life with a new owner coming in, and I guess this is more of a new lease of life for the office staff.
But to get everyone on board, there's still a lot more work to do.
He has very clearly said there is no open chequebook, so the wallet's not open unless we have a good business case.
Management spent the afternoon talking contracts with Branko Kalina. The coach has a wish list, but admits he's not keen to move elsewhere.
I'm quietly confident of signing Branko. He's an important part of what we see as the future.
The future of several players remains unclear. They'll also soon head to the table.
Now we've got to impress a whole new bunch of people. We've got Tinkler to impress and the new chairman and so forth. So we're out to impress them to ensure we get a new contract.
That won't be easy for some. Nikolai Topper-Stanley is still struggling with a calf strain and might miss next week's Raw clash.
The scans showed that I didn't have much of a tear, but the symptoms seemed to be a little bit worse than initially thought. But in saying that, it's settled down the last few days and I'm progressing well.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
You won't see the Prime Minister driving around in these energy-efficient smart cars anytime soon, but expect to see a lot more of them around Newcastle. They're just one part of the federal government's $100 million Smart Grid, Smart City program, which the PM formally signed off on today. Joined by Climate Change Minister and Charlton MP Greg Combet, the PM said the program will provide households with clever ways to improve energy efficiency.
For example, it would enable you to automatically turn on your washing machine in the middle of the night if that is going to give you the biggest advantage to use off-peak power.
The trial will also see the delivery of 20 of these electric cars across Newcastle, Scone and parts of Sydney, and the creation of 58 charging points. But don't expect renewable energy to replace Newcastle's main export, coal, anytime soon.
It's been the economic heart of the Hunter region ever since then, since colonisation of the area, and it continues to be extremely important. It will remain extremely important.
The trial will finish in 2013. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
The trendy Derby Street scene is well known to Novocastrians, but according to traders, it's a well-kept secret from many visitors. They hope a new handbook will change that.
We could do a lot more tourists knowing where we are, and this is one way to help get that information out there.
Titled 1 Degree, it provides information about Cooks Hill's 20-plus businesses, as well as a brief history of the area.
We'll be bringing them out twice a year, and we hope to sort of put them at the airport and a lot through the hospitality and up the valley to drive people from out of the area predominantly back in to see what we've got to offer down here in Cooks Hill.
The handbook is funded by local traders. They say such a proactive approach has kept them in business.
The city centre was suffering, but other people telling it what to do, and the people that were the stakeholders didn't have a pure say. Here in Derby Street or Cooks Hill, we sort of drive it from the inside.
Speaking of tourism, Sunday's Derby Street Fair is expected to give the area a real boost. As many as 40,000 people are expected to size up a record number of stalls.
It does bring a lot of people into Newcastle, and not just tourists, but it brings traders in from out of Newcastle who in turn go back and talk Newcastle up or Derby Street up.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
A final clean, a few more licks of paint and boxes of beverages loaded into fridges. After 4 years and around $15 million, the Honeysuckle Hotel is finally complete. Owner Craig Laundy says nursing the historic building back to life has been a labour of love.
I think it's a good example of how you can work practically with the heritage. I deal with the Department of Planning, the heritage people, and you can work practically to bring these sorts of buildings back to life, find an alternate use for them.
The hotel's being billed as a destination bar, with its main clientele expected to be the upmarket over 25 crowd. Every aspect of its interior design has been created with the building's history in mind and to embrace a nautical theme.
The pattern in the carpet is from a photo of the masts of the old tall ships that we have of this building in the 1900s. That is a theme repeated throughout the hotel, so it's in the logo. The H in the Honeysuckle Hotel is actually ship masts.
70 staff have been put on this week alone, with employee numbers expected to double over summer. The bar's taken over the Old Empire Hotel's liquor licence and opened its doors to the public at 10 this morning. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
We're now looking at a whole range of broader things, really more holistic management.
Working with the patient, with the elements of the story, can often lead to the improvement of a chronic condition.
This device monitors the level and type of incontinence that the ageing person is suffering from, and it radically changes their care plan.
It's called the Srixon International these days, but it's been Jack Newton's tournament for 27 years, and even he's impressed just how big it's become.
First of all, it was interstate, then we went international. And look, I'd have to say this is probably one of the biggest junior tournaments in the Southern Hemisphere, if not the biggest.
While internationals littered the field, it was Australian players who featured on the final day, with places at World Junior Finals in either China or America on the line.
There's a couple of real good chances. Just depends on the nerves, I think.
It began as a two-horse race in both the boys and girls. Josh Caban was chasing his Concord clubmate Ryan Smith, and he didn't take long to launch his attack with a birdie on the first. Australian junior champion Annie Choi also started with a one-shot lead. But Chantel Hodson applied pressure right from the start, with this long-range birdie putt drawing her level. Choi ended up winning that one easily, but in the boys it was so close it went to a playoff, which Smith won. They say if you fall off, get straight back in the saddle, but Juliana Barr-Thompson's return to riding was a little tougher than most. She was hit by a car while training on her bike back in March, and that caused all sorts of problems. But it was the pain of not training that hurt most.
That was kind of the worst part about it. I wasn't able to just do anything, which I found really hard because I wasn't used to sitting around doing nothing.
Now recovered, she's sure made up for it. Outside of her university studies in physical education, the aspiring professional triathlete has literally thrown herself back into a tough regime.
Most mornings up at 4 and get to the pool, and then in the afternoon a bike or run. Sometimes on the weekends I could be doing maybe up to 6 hours kind of solid effort, but it's good, I enjoy it, so that's the main thing.
Her bid to defend the Maitland Triathlon crown has become a little tougher too, with noted local Reggie Wright nominating to race as well. With the state club distance title also on the line, there's plenty who'll be lining up for the starter's gun at Morpeth early Sunday morning.
Inside runner at the 200. On its outside is Desert Bunny. Those two have got a couple of lengths. To the outside, Desert Bunny at the 100 leads in the cup. Board rallies gamely on the inside, but Desert Bunny down the outside takes the cup for 2010. Desert Bunny 3 lengths to Board, 2 lengths back to Instruct. Out wide then came Dandy, top win with Blink and Easy, Super React. 10 lengths further back. Home Now was second last, and the last one over the line was Irish Love.
Desert Bunny takes the Port Macquarie Cup for Brett Dodson and Glenn Lynch in the saddle. Board has tried very hard, held on for